December 17th, 1944, the Ardennes. Before dawn broke over the snow-covered forests of Belgium, Private First Class William Soderman crouched alone in a frozen foxhole near Rochrath. His breath steamed in the icy air as he clutched his M9A1 Bazooka, loaded with shape-charge M6A3 rocket, a weapon that, just 2 years earlier, had been considered unreliable and nearly useless. He didn't know it yet, but before the sun would rise, Soderman would single-handedly destroy 3 German tanks, stop an entire armored advance, and prove to the world that a simple 13-pound tube in the hands of a determined soldier could change the course of a battle. The previous day, the Germans had launched Operation Watch on the Rhine, better known today as the Battle of the Bulge. American infantry were retreating under immense pressure. The ground was frozen solid, making even shallow foxholes difficult to dig. Exhausted, cold, and under-equipped, Soderman's unit scrambled to form a defensive line. But deeper in the forest, German Panther tanks from the feared 12th SS Panzer Division were advancing, and they were unaware that one man waited in silence. The German Panther, born out of necessity after encountering the Soviet T-34, was a marvel of engineering, armed with a 75mm high-velocity cannon and covered in sloped frontal armor, nearly invulnerable to standard American tank guns. Their crews, battle-hardened veterans from Normandy, believed they were untouchable by American infantry weapons. And in 1942, that may have been true, but the weapon Soderman carried, the Bazooka, had evolved drastically. Initially developed in 1942 using little more than scrap tubing and electrical ignition, the Bazooka had failed miserably in its first combat tests in North Africa. Its rockets were unreliable. The ignition system failed in poor weather, and its shape-charged warhead often bounced harmlessly off sloped armor. But combat experience in Tunisia, Sicily, and Italy forced rapid innovation. By 1944, the M9A1 Bazooka had been refined with a magneto-ignition system that worked in any condition, and new M6A3 rockets with blunt, rounded noses that detonated reliably, even on angled steel. As Soderman waited in the darkness, he heard the unmistakable growl of Maybach engines approaching. 5 Panthers appeared on the narrow road, less than 50 yards away. Soderman knew the stakes. Firing too soon would give the rest time to maneuver. Waiting too long could mean death. He chose the boldest option. He stood up in full view and fired. The rocket streaked toward the lead tank. On impact, the shape-charged warhead detonated. Inside, a superheated copper jet traveling over 8,000 meters per second punched through the Panther's side armor and ignited the fighting compartment. The tank erupted in flames. Ammunition cooked off. The road was blocked. The column was trapped. Despite machine gun fire sweeping his position and artillery raining down throughout the night, Soderman held his ground. The remaining tanks were forced to pull back, unsure where the attack had come from. But they weren't done. At dawn, another group of German tanks advanced. Soderman, now exhausted and exposed, ran along a ditch, repositioned himself, and fired again, destroying a second Panther and forcing yet another retreat. But Soderman wasn't finished. As German infantry advanced to support their tanks, he turned his bazooka on them, killing at least 3 soldiers and wounding others at point-blank range. When his unit received orders to withdraw, Soderman could have escaped with them. But hearing the roar of more tanks, and knowing some of his comrades were still exposed, he rushed forward once more. With his last rocket, he fired and disabled a 3rd tank. But this time, machine gun fire caught him. Wounded and unarmed, Soderman dragged himself back to friendly lines. He had destroyed 3 tanks and scattered an infantry platoon, alone, with just 4 rockets. The technology behind the bazooka's warhead, the shaped charge, had been known since 1888, when Charles Edward Monroe discovered that explosive charges with hollow cones focus their blast into devastating jets. But it wasn't until Swiss engineer Henry Mohawk brought his concept to the U.S. in 1940 that shaped charges were finally taken seriously. The shaped charge's brilliance was simple. It didn't rely on speed to penetrate armor. It used physics. No matter how thick or sloped the steel, if the warhead detonated properly, it could punch a hole through it. This rendered traditional armor design obsolete. American engineers and industry moved fast. Companies like General Electric improved the ignition systems. Hercules Powder Company developed temperature-resistant propellants. Firestone Tire and Rubber brought automotive-level mass production to Bazooka components. By D-Day, the U.S. was producing over 500 launches a day, giving nearly every infantry unit a way to fight tanks. Despite this, German tank crews remained confident, even when they tried to adapt, adding skirts, spare tracks, even welding concrete to their hulls. The shaped charge still penetrated. The German response, the Panzerschreck, was heavier, less mobile, and still not enough to shift the balance. The effect on morale was devastating. In urban battles like Bastogne, German tank, crews hesitated to advance down streets where every window might hide a bazooka team. They stopped maneuvering. They stopped fighting like the Blitzkrieg force of old. Intelligence after the war revealed that fear of bazookas had paralyzed German armored units more than actual losses. The cost-effectiveness was staggering. Each M9 A1 bazooka cost under $20. Each rocket around $15. For $35, a soldier could destroy a tank worth hundreds of thousands of Reichsmarks, a kill ratio no other weapon system in the war could match. By war's end, the U.S. had produced 476,000 launchers and over 15 million rockets. They weren't flashy. They weren't perfect. But in forest cities and foxholes across Europe and the Pacific, they did their job. On November 1st, 1945, President Harry Truman awarded William Soderman the Medal of Honor. His citation praised not just his courage, but his impact. He had stopped an armored assault by himself. 2 U.S. Navy ships would later bear his name, a reminder that one soldier with one weapon can sometimes turn the tide of history. The bazooka would go on to influence modern anti-tank warfare. Its descendants, from the Soviet RPG to the American javelin, still use the same shaped charge principle born from that scrap tube in 1942. And the lesson remains. With the right combination of technology, training, and courage, even a single infantryman can stop a tank.